Okay, to start things off, our Digital Factory Apparel product is built specifically for the DTG market. We are I'd say one of the premier RIPs on the market for DTG printing, for those customers that need more productivity, more features, better features from their product, instead of the product that's bundled with the printers. Okay. We have a couple of different flavors of our product, Digital Factory Apparel. We do have a Digital Factory Apparel Brother Edition. We also have an Epson Edition, and we also have a Rico Edition. And then we have our Digital Factory Apparel Production Edition, production product, which basically includes all the drivers. So if a customer a customer has a Brother and an Epson, or an Epson and a Rico, you don't have to buy Digital Factory Epson Edition and Digital Factory Rico Edition. You could just buy Digital Factory Apparel Production, and you can drive any combination of printers that you have. We do also support the DTG brand as well. The DTG brand is supported in our apparel production product. Okay. All right, so with that said, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of use the GTX, the Brother GTX queue for now. Okay, but as you can see, for each model, we do have different queues configured. So we have our graphics and photo queue, which the difference is just the rendering intent that we get from these. Okay, how they manage the color. Okay, so we have queues for black garments or dark garments, a queue for colored garments, as well as a queue for white garments. Okay, and we have that for all of the machines. Okay, so the RI1000, DTG G4 series. Okay, some of the queues are set up a little bit differently than some of the others. Okay, GTX4 and the F2100, but we also support the F2000, the GT3 series. As far as DTG, we support the M series products, so M2, M4, M6. As far as the Rico, currently we only support the RI1000. Okay. Now, the way the software is laid out, we've got pretty much 4 quadrants in our software. The beauty of this is that you don't have to go into different menus or different tabs to set up your file, configure your file, and so forth. So we make everything kind of easy up front. Okay. So when you bring in a graphic, this is where the graphic will be listed. Okay, the file, the incoming file. Over here to the right is your preview window. Right now it's set for multi-page preview, but you can also set that up for single page preview, where you only preview one page at a time. Okay. Down here in the lower right, okay, in the lower right quadrant is where we can select our print modes, our platen type. Okay, so we do support all the platens that manufacturer supports. Okay, as well as the driver settings direct from this particular window. Okay, so we can set the full carriage width. So each machine is going to be slightly different in this particular window. We also have our color adjust options. Okay, now what the color adjust options allow you to do is allows you to do your quick adjustments. Okay, so if you need a little more, color boost, color saturation, or a little more pop from your colors, you can increase the chroma. Okay, we do also have the saturation option there, although I probably wouldn't recommend it because saturation may help with some aspects of your image, but may blow out others. So use this one sparingly because depending on the image, you may not get as good as results that you may want. You may get some good results in some areas and not so good in others. We can adjust the brightness here. We can also play around with the rendering intents. Okay. So from here, 100 being basically photo mode and 0 being graphics mode, okay, we can actually tweak these settings to get something in between, okay. So with our RIP, we do give you a lot more control over how your color is handled, okay. All right, so moving right along. We also have the underbase settings here, okay, so you can actually tweak your white underbase. You can also tweak the choke here as well. Okay, that's the choke that chokes off the white from the color, so you don't have white peeking out. And then you have your white underbase strength, which is your white under the black. Okay. And then we have this holes feature, which we'll cover in another webinar, which allows you to add kind of special effects to your prints. And in some cases, you can set up holes to save even more on ink costs. So some people use this setting as an ink saving feature as well. Okay. All right, so those are the color adjustments that you have access to from this button here. Okay, so as far as the software is laid out, as far as our import filters, we actually have very good import filters because we are true RIP. We can import PDF, EPS, JPEG, TIFF, PNG, PSD, AI files directly in our app. We also, when you install the software, we also include what's called Send To plugins. So Photoshop, Corel, Illustrator all get this plugin. The beauty about this plugin is, say, for instance, you're working with vector graphics in Illustrator. When you do the Send To and you send it over to our RIP, it's sending it over as a PDF. So it's keeping all that vector color data in check. Okay, so it's not doing any kind of conversion or anything like that, as if you were to use it with the inbox software that comes with, the Brother or the Epson products. Okay. Our queue, queue setting, this is where we can manage our queues. Excuse me. We could also create new queues. We can organize our queues. And also in the queues, this is where you would configure your port settings. Okay. Now, the beauty of our product is we actually have superior white ink control for our RIP. So you can actually go in and calibrate your white ink usage using any of our wizards here. So we actually have a wizard for the maximum white ink that's being laid down. Okay. I usually recommend this to my users, especially customers that are doing different types of garments. So if you're doing anything from, say, a hoodie, which may need more pre-treat than, say, a t-shirt, a Rolly t-shirt or a Gildan t-shirt or a Fruit of the Loom, depending on the weight of the garment, the weaving of the garment. Some may take more pre-treat and more white ink and color than others. The beauty of our product is we can actually go in and calibrate this. And once we've calibrated the setting, we can apply that to either the queue, to that current print mode, or we can create a new print mode. I always recommend creating a new print mode, okay? And the reason for that is if you create that new print mode with the calibration adjustment, it's as simple as importing your file, select that print mode, resize your image, and print. Everything else is done automatic, okay? So just to give you an idea of how this works, we'll just cover the set max white ink setting here. What I'll do is go ahead and set it up for, say, an adult platen. I'll pick a image here that we can use. We'll go with this image here. We can specify the size of that image. Click next. We set the minimum white value to, say, 50, because you really shouldn't go anything below that, but you can set it to whatever you like. Maximum value is 100%, and we can increment that at any increment that you like. So we'll go use 10 for now. And when you click Print Max White Ink Chart, what it'll do is it'll print that image with varying levels of white underneath. Okay, so we'll go ahead and let that process here. All right, so we're almost done here. All right, so we'll go ahead and select these. We'll go ahead and rip the file. Now, the beauty of our product is we can also see the actual ripped data, okay? So once we're done spooling this, I'll show you the difference in the white levels. Now up here in this menu bar here, that gives us our items, if you right click on the bar, you can actually specify what items you want to see in each column, okay? You can also move these columns around as well, so you can put the most important items up front and the lesser of the items towards the back. Okay, so to view your raw data, we could simply right click on the job, click view raw data. This will show us our ripped data. And if you notice here on the screen, we have different variations of our graphic along with its white underbase. Okay, and this is a visual thing. This is something the customer is going to have to visually check and see which they like more. So as you print these, you would print these on a dark shirt that's been pre-treated. You would then press it, do the whole process, and then you're going to take a look at it. And the value that looks the best is the value you want to use. So in this instance, say, I like the value up in this 70% area. Okay, I want to save on my cost, or even maybe in this 80% area where it's a little brighter, has a little more pop. Obviously, we can go even higher than that, but obviously we're going to use a lot more white ink. Okay, so we'll go with the 80 there for now. Okay, so if I close that, bring up my set max white ink setting. Okay, so I'll set that to 80. So give you an example. For instance, if this was for a hoodie, pre-treated, so forth, and I find that 80% is going to give me good coverage for that hoodie. Okay. Once I set that value, I could say next. And what I can do is I can apply this to the queue, but then it's going to apply that for every garment that I do, which probably I don't want to do. I can apply it to the current print mode, which is this print mode here, but again, it's going to apply it to that print mode. So if you change garment type, you're going to have to probably make some changes if you're doing some garments that, you know, like I said, from a hoodie to say a t-shirt. So what I typically recommend is just create a new print mode. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and call this we'll call this black hoodies and click finish. Now, once I've done that, you'll notice down here where my print modes are located, I now have a new print mode called black hoodies. Okay, so whenever I put on a hoodie or load up a hoodie, I could just simply select that print mode, and I know that my printer's white levels have been calibrated to that print mode. Okay. Now, the other calibration utilities we have as well is our black removal tools. So if you're doing black shirts and you want to control how the black is removed, you can run through that wizard. And all the wizards are very similar how they function. Okay, how much white to use under black, setting the choke. So this will print different images with different choke levels, and you can check those values and see which value is going to give you the best choke. Same thing with the color boost. Okay, the color boost is only going to affect your transparent areas. Okay, the parts in the backgrounds. Okay, that are going to get that boost. And you can also set up your photo merge. So if you're having some issues where some details aren't coming out just right, or the colors aren't just right where you want it, you can run the photo merge, and this will print, again, various levels of that image with different tonalities, different values, and you would select the best one. Okay. And again, once you've done that, you can apply it to that print mode, and now you're all done. You've calibrated your machine, and you can do that, like I said, for your hoodies, t-shirts. So if you're a customer, you know, if you're a customer or user and you're using Gildan, Rolly, and Fruit of the Loom, you can actually have a calibrated file for each of those. Okay, and it just makes life a little easier when working with those. You don't have to try to remember, well, gee, what settings did I use, or have to write those down on a piece of paper and have to input those manually each and every time you go to print. Okay, so that's the beauty of our product. The jobs menu, this is where you're going to have all your image editing tools. Okay, so within our RIP, we can actually edit features of the job. Okay, so we can knock out the black, knock out color. We include GIMP, which is an open source image editing program, so you can actually edit your images with that as well. It's similar to Photoshop. We include Fluid Mask, which Fluid Mask is very useful for knocking out backgrounds on complex graphics. Okay, for instance, a dark blue background, picture of a girl with her hair blowing in the wind. You want to clean out that background. Fluid Mask gives you a really easy to use tool to do that. Our supersize image feature, which is very unique, are sent to Photoshop. So if customers are used to using Photoshop to work with their files, they can send the job to Photoshop and then send it back to the RIP once they're done editing the files. Okay. We also have our plugin production plugins, which are Knock Me Out Black, Knock Me Color. We've got easy color adjustments here. Okay, these are pretty self-explanatory. Clean up the black, clean up the white. You have different levels, contrast, saturation, so forth. And then we have some special effects filters here. So we have distress frames, as well as the distress filters. So this gives you, these are filters that allow you to get that kind of vintage look on your graphics. It's a pretty cool tool. So what we'll do is go ahead and close, get rid of this job here. Also, what you can do is you can set up your costing. Okay, so costing here, what you'll notice is that our costing is a lot more detailed than the competitors' products. Okay, in our product, we can input material cost, surface treatment costs. So material costs, we can do it by unit. Surface treatment costs, we can do it by unit as well, by individual garments, or we can break it down to, you know, by square meter, by square foot. The ink volume costs, you can set it per liter or per milliliter. Okay, so these costs, I kind of came up, I did a kind of an average cost of what the GTX 4 inks cost. And for the 500 milliliter bags. And basically, these are the values that I came up with for the cost per milliliter on the inks. The ink contingency, basically, it's your percentage that you're going to add on to that, which takes into account cleanings, the white recirculation, things of that nature. A low value would be right around 5%, but you're probably looking somewhere in the range of maybe 10% contingency there, which is your cleanings, your maintenance, so forth. Okay, you can set your labor cost. This would be your packaging, you know, your labor costs, what have you. Your taxes, so you can add your taxes here. The secondary tax is your markup, for instance, on the product. Okay, and then you can put the time in there, although the time really doesn't affect the costing. Okay, once you're done with that, you can just click update and it'll update these same values to all the different queues. Okay. All right, so we can go ahead and close this out by clicking OK. All right, so this lower left corner here actually has kind of two functions. Okay. This will show your ripped jobs. Okay, your ripped jobs that you already have ripped. You can also go to the browse option here, and you can browse to the folder where you have your images. Okay, here you could simply click and drag. Your drag and drop. Actually, I want this one there. We can actually copy and move jobs to different queues. Okay. So for instance, this one here, I'll throw this in this one here. We'll go ahead and take that. We'll move that to the color queue, GTX4 color. Okay. We'll go ahead and the white queue, we'll go ahead and drop that image in, that one there, that one there. Okay. So again, we've got all these queues that allow us to manage our jobs. So we can import all the files that we want in here, and we can go in and we can prioritize these jobs. So unlike products such as Graphics Lab, where you have to import each individual file to work with, to manage those files is not as easy. Okay, so what we do is we make it easy by having this queue-based product. Okay, so with the queue-based product, I can go in here, I can take this file, I can crop it. Okay, so I can take that, crop that image if I want. So I can do things with each image in one area. I don't have to take one image, work with it, send it to print, and then bring in the other one and start working with it. I can do this and switch from cues, so I can go here. If I want to knock out the color, I can knock that out. Go into, back to my other cue. I can go to my graphics cue. I can go in and do my other functions. So I have a lot more flexibility, okay, that you don't have with the other products. As far as resizing for our DTG type product, it's set to center at the top of the platen here, okay? But you can take that image, you can resize it, you can center it, what have you. Okay, if I resize my image, it's always going to pull back up to the top. Okay, I can input my values in this area if I want. Okay. We also have grid view, if you like working in grid view. We also have our optional visual print position feature, which is our camera system. Okay, so we actually offer it as an option, okay, for Digital Factory Apparel. The beauty is that you don't need a separate application, okay, such as the Brother product. For Brother, you have the GTX Graphics Lab software, but then if you want to use the camera, you've got to use their AccuLine system, which is a different piece of software. And that software really is not as intuitive to work with. And the other thing is a lot of money. Our visual print positioning feature is built in, not built in, it's an option, but it is part of the Digital Factory product. You don't have to run a separate software package. This will work with any Windows-based camera. So when I say that, any camera that works with the Windows Camera app will work with our visual print positioning feature. So if you have a webcam with a stand or a mount for the printer, which is not included, the beauty of that is it allows you to use whatever camera and stand system you want. This is available for Ricoh, DTG, and Epson, which currently they do not have any options for. There are other options for projector system and things like that, but those systems are very costly. And our system does the job each and every time. Okay. And if you use the visual print positioning with our templates feature, for instance, for say shoes, and our clipping to template feature, which allows you to take a vector outline, say of a shoe, import that into the template, and basically you clip the image to that template. And now if you have the camera set up, you can actually resize that image exactly to the shoe. What this does, gives you ink savings, because currently to do a shoe, you have to print basically a rectangle, tape up the shoe, tape up around the shoe, and basically print a rectangle. So you're probably wasting about 30% of your ink that's being printed on the tape that you're going to throw out. Okay, so what our solution does is it allows you to really kind of optimize your print workflow. Also, if you're doing pocket tees, jeans, things like that, sleeves, our VPP does allow you to get accurate placement of your images on those types of products. Okay, that'll be a different webinar where we'll cover all of that. This webinar, I just want to mainly focus on kind of the calibrations, some of the key features, and the costing. Okay, so moving right along, our device menu, okay, is where you can manage your devices, your print modes, your print media. This is where you can also set up templates for, say, your shoes, sleeves, things of that nature. Okay. Tools, you've got your tool options there where you can go in and configure your camera if you have the camera. Okay. That's where you can configure it. Okay. We also have our barcode support as well as hot folder support. So if you're working in a production environment and want to tie in our RIP to your front end e-store or production, we actually have our hot folders features where you can set up the hot folders for each individual queue. Okay, so you can have a queue set up for hoodies, another queue for, you know, small t-shirts, adult t-shirts, dark white color. And you can set these queues up and you can actually have jobs set up with barcodes and you can automate your workflow. We also have our automatic job sorter, which also is an option, which allows you to have a central location for all your images. And as these images get put into that folder, the automatic job sorter is set up with rules that would automatically route the jobs to their respective hot folders. Okay, so you can have it automate the actual workflow from the order process down to that hot folder that's going to take that image, resize, print for you. This automatic job sorter does also work with barcode readers as well. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, the view option, like I said, you can do a multi-view layout or a single page layout. So if I go single page layout, all I'm going to see is that single item. Okay, if I go take that off, now I've got multiple pages here. Okay. So now what I've done is I've already set up my costing in here. I'm not going to worry too much about the material costs and the surface treatment costs. I'm just looking at the ink cost here. So we'll go ahead and OK that. And what our RIP will do, once you've resized it, you've got the print mode set up properly, size, so forth done. Simply rip the file. Now our black graphics and black photo cues are already pre-configured with the black knockout automatic. Okay, so there's no need to remove black. It's automatic. So unlike Graphics Lab, for instance, where you have to specify the knock me black out when you import that file, with ours you don't. The queue is already configured for that. Although I have seen on the Graphics Lab that you can save some settings in the software. Again, the downside is that you cannot process multiple jobs at one time. It's strictly a one-off, one job each time. So you have to, you know, load up the job and then print it. Now, obviously on the printer, it loads the file and then you can reprint from the printer direct. But we can do the same thing. We can print direct to the machine. We can also generate an ARX4 file that can be put on a pen drive and sent over to the machine that way as well. Okay. So now that I've ripped this particular job, this one's pretty good size. Yeah, so this one's on an adult platen, so a large shirt. And the job cost is using basically $2.16 or €2.16. I think I did my pricing based on euros. Okay. Now, if you want to see the ink usage, you can just select that job again and click the costing icon. And you notice that it actually changes and shows you the actual job ticket properties. Okay. So again, if I had a cost associated with the material, surface treatment, my contingencies and all that, it would actually give me a total cost down here at the bottom. The beauty of this as well is I can export this as an Excel spreadsheet, okay, as an Excel file for my reference, okay. So in here, it's going to show me how much black ink is used, cyan, magenta, white, and yellow. Okay, obviously your white's going to definitely be the most ink that's being laid down, okay, because that's your underbase. Now, if I want to see my underbase, once I've ripped it, if I go to my view raw data, okay, this will give you a perspective of your job. What I could do is I can click on this button here, which toggles my color planes and layers. I could deselect all here and then just select my white layer, and this will show me my white that's being laid down. Okay, and our white is being laid down based on the transparency of the image. Okay, so where it starts going transparent, you get less white, gives you more of that grayscale look. Okay, so that's one way you can take a look at that. Okay. All right, so if we're using, say, the color graphics queue, and I want to knock out my black here, okay. Now in this one, the black is not automatically knocked out. So in here, I can actually go to the knock me black out and knock out the black, okay. But obviously what that's going to do is if I had a, say, a blue shirt, okay, you'll notice that here where the dragon's face is and so forth, it's not going to do a very good job of that. So in this type of situation, this is where you can actually go in and use fluid mask. So I'll go ahead and load up fluid mask here. Fluid mask is going to create a mask around the image. Okay. And basically what I want to do is just kind of get rid of this background black. And again, I can change the size of my wand here. All right, so I can go in here, knock these features out that I don't need. Okay, so this is something you can't do in, say, Graphics Lab or the Garment Creator from Epson. Okay, so this is actually a very powerful, unique feature that we offer. So we'll go ahead. Whoops. Actually, I don't want. That's part of the. See, that's part of the dragon. Actually, I can get rid of that. And so we'll go through here and just kind of knock out these little areas here that we don't need. I'm going to actually knock out this text as well. Get rid of this text. And we'll go back, resize my wand here. And all right, I think I got just about everything else out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and save and apply this. Okay. It'll go ahead and reprocess my preview. That didn't like that. Something happened here. Yeah, didn't like that. Let's go back into fluid mask here. I'll just do this real quick, like I'm not going to take everything out. I'll just take most of it. Yeah, we'll just go with that for now. Go ahead and save and apply that. Okay. And as you can see, it knocked out that background, but it kept the black. Okay, it kept the black that's inside the image. Okay, for printing on my colored garments. Okay, so if I were to print this on a blue shirt, green shirt, what have you, I would still have that black layer there as well as my white underbase. Okay. The other feature I want to show you here is our supersize feature. Okay. Okay. Now, typically when you get an image off the internet, what have you, a lot of times these images are low res. Okay, customer emails you an image, it's typically going to be a low res image. Okay, now in our product, oh, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Okay, so if we take a closer look here, you can see how it's all pixelated. Okay, now when you go to print that on a white shirt, you're probably going to notice that pixelation. Okay, so how can we get rid of that? Well, we have our supersize image utility. Okay, this allows you to increase the size of that image, basically resampling the image and give you a higher resolution image to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and select 300 here. Click OK. And if you notice, all of that pixelation I have is gone. So if I move the image around, you can see it update there. And this is very good, especially on the edges here. And you can actually increase the edge sharpness. Okay, so now I've got a nice sharper edge here. Okay, but typically the default settings should be good to work with. Okay, and once you okay that, it'll go ahead and apply that setting. Okay, we also have our knock me color out feature. Okay, the knock me color out allows you to get rid of a color. So for instance, if I want to print this logo on a yellow shirt, I want to use the yellow shirt as the background color. Okay, so what I can do is go to my production plugins, knock me color out, specify that hue of yellow. Since this is a fairly simple graphic to work with, I can actually knock out up to 4 colors. I can also adjust that underbase how much I want. Okay. So if I wanted to print this on a yellow shirt, I can specify the shirt color here, or if I wanted to print that on a green shirt, okay, or a red shirt. All right. So I can view that here on the fly. Okay. And if I want to see where the white ink is going to print, I could click on Show Underbase, and the area that shows black is where my white underbase is going to be laid down. Okay. Okay, so this particular image here, here's another instance of where you'd want to use fluid mask. So for instance, if I had this image here and I want to print this on a, colored shirt or a white shirt, I want to remove the black, but the problem is if I use the knock me blackout tool, it's going to knock out all the black, meaning the black in her hair, on their face, her eyebrow, eyelids. Okay, so we don't want to do that. So if we go in using fluid mask, we can knock that area out easily. Okay, again, something you can't do with Graphics Lab or Garment Creator. Okay, you would end up having to take it into Photoshop and actually do a lot of editing through Photoshop to get that the way you want it. Okay. Now we could simply use fluid mask. Again, this is included with the Digital Factory Apparel product. Okay. So we'll go ahead and let that edit. This is actually a pretty high res image, so it's going to take a little bit. Okay. Once that's done, I can go ahead and take that, crop it. I'm ready to go. Okay, so I can resize it, select my print mode, and off we go. Okay, so if I go in, rip this particular file, okay, it's going to use about 72 cents of ink for that size. Okay, again, this is on an adult platen, adult shirt, which is, probably a little more than 50% coverage, just about 50% coverage. Okay. All right, so moving right along, we also have our color replacement tool. Okay, our color replacement. Okay, so say for instance, you're trying to match as best as you can a particular red. Okay, if you know what that value of the red is, okay, the problem with DTG is the color gamut is very small. So if you compare the color gamut of a DTG printer with the color gamut of a EcoSol printer or a pigment printer would be like working with the tennis ball. Okay, you've got a tennis ball there. The DTG color space would be about the size of a golf ball. Okay, so there's certain colors that we can hit with my desktop printer or my large format printer that unfortunately the way DTG is, you just can't hit certain colors at that intensity, but we can get close. Okay, now what we can do is we can use our job color replacement, and we can go in and we can put a value to try to get maybe a punchier red. So for instance, this red here is 88 and 97, and say, I want to put maybe 2% cyan, 100% magenta, and 100% yellow. I can add that. Okay, that'll add that to my job color replacement chart. Okay, I can actually save this as well. We'll go ahead and apply it. Okay, it's going to ask me to click on the color replacement preview if I want to see a preview. That preview is up here at top. So if I click on that color replacement preview, okay, it will show me probably a slightly richer red. You can't really tell too much of a difference here. Okay. But this is one way you can try to get some brighter colors or more pop. You can also go in and on the print test page here, okay, we have the different swatches. Okay, so we have CMYK swatch, RGB swatch, and lab swatch, okay, that you can print out. Okay, and you can use this as a color chart. So this, if you print this out, it's going to basically show you what your limit of the printer is as far as colors. Okay, but the beauty is that you have this chart and the customer can cross-reference the color that they want. It'll give you that value, and if you have that value in your design software, you can create that, you can give it a name or what have you, or have that value for that color, and you can set that input value and then set the output value for what you want using the color replacement. Okay. And let's see here, what other tools we have. As far as our help menu, our software no longer comes with paper manuals. Everything is done through our product called Compass. Okay. And let me see if Compass will launch here for me. Okay. So Compass is our online user's manual. Now, the beauty of this Compass product is that we do include videos. The videos are in English language, but are subtitled in 5 additional languages. So German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Okay. These videos are also located on our YouTube channel, okay, where our webinars will also be located. But in here, you can go through and select the area of the software that you're working with. For instance, if I'm working in the queue here, you'll notice that Compass also switches to my queues area. It's very interactive. So if you had 2 screens, a split screen, and had Compass on one and the app running on the other, as you're moving through the software, okay, so if I go back to Digital Factory and I go to, say, color replacement, okay, in my color replacement, oops, in my color replacement, takes me to that where that menu is, and even has a video there. Okay, so if you need to learn more about our product, you can simply go through the Compass product and find the content as well as the videos, if we have a video there that explains it a little bit more in detail as well. Okay, talks about our production plugins. Okay, also the adjustments, the calibrations. So if we go up into Q, let's go back to my black graphics queue here. Q, whoops, close that out. Let's go back here. So if we go to Q, go to my setup max, white ink, you notice that it actually brings me to my setup white ink option. Okay. Okay, so Compass is very, very useful. So if you have any problems, that's the first place you should go, before calling the dealer or calling technical support. You're probably going to find your answer there a lot quicker. Okay. So, like I said, Digital Factory Apparel product, again, queue-based for easy layout, control, processing of your jobs. You've got your print modes here. Like I said, when you go through the calibrations, you can apply those to that custom print mode. And then from this print mode window, you can just simply select the print mode you want, import your image, resize, print. It should be that simple. You shouldn't have to edit anything unless you really need to. But if the job, like we have here, this is a job with a black background, very simple work. We'll go in here. So for instance, I want to print this Joker image on the black hoodie. I've calibrated my queue. I just simply drag and drop that file in. It's resized the way I want it. I can change that if I like. And at this point, it's simply print. Okay, it'll rip and send to the printer. Okay. And there you have it. It kind of in a nutshell, our Digital Factory Apparel product. There are a lot more advanced user tools, okay, available to you. So in the print modes, for instance, okay, if we go into that print mode, okay, we can actually add additional passes. Okay, so if you wanted to add another pass of white, for instance, not sure why you would do that, but if you needed some more white, you can actually add another pass of white in the processing. Here you can actually go in and tweak your underbase settings if you want. Okay, you notice that when we did the calibration, we had it set to 80. This is the value that it's referring to, the white ink strength. Okay, this is the white under the black. So if you're noticing that your blacks are not as rich, that they're getting bled out from the white underbase, you can actually go in here and you can kind of tweak these values here. But again, if you go through the calibration for the white under black, you can calibrate that and it'll automatically set this value. Okay. Your printer options. Okay. So in the advanced settings, you can go in and tweak these. I would not recommend messing around too much with these settings, because if you do, it's going to affect the way the profile is going to work, because this profile is based on these printer settings. Okay, so if I go in here and I change this to 600 by 600, I may not get the results I want. Okay, so those are your kind of advanced settings. But to be honest, you really should not have to go in here if you've gone through the wizards and create your print mode based on those wizards. And you can always go back and you can recalibrate it if you need to. Okay. The last thing I wanted to show you were the vintage effect here. So we'll go ahead and bring this one here. Almost forgot that one. So I've got my image here. Let me go to single view. All right. So got my image here, and I can do a couple of things with this as far as effects. We have what's called a distressed frame. Now, what this is going to do is just put a frame around my image. Okay. So what you see here. So I can do, the border size, I can increase that. And this is just a frame. This is good if you had a square type of, say, a picture. Okay, that's a square picture, a photo, perhaps. And you want to give it kind of that parchment paper type look on the garment. We can do this. It's a really simple filter. And again, it's included with our RIP. The other, whoops, I shouldn't have clicked on OK. Well, no biggie. If I do something like this, and like I said, I said, oops, I didn't want to do that. Well, the beauty is I don't have to re-import the file or delete or anything. I could just click here, undo the plugin effect, and it'll give me the default image back to the way it was. And I can go back to my effects, and I can go to my next effect here, which is my distress filter. Now, this is one that's a little more common in the marketplace, which is the distress filter. Gives customers that kind of vintage look to their graphic. Okay, so this actually gives you kind of that old vintage look. Okay, we'll go ahead and click OK. I'll go ahead and edit. Okay, so that gives you that vintage look. And now if I go into my Knock Me Blackout, which I probably should have done my Knock Me Blackout first. So again, Undo the effect. Go in here, knock that out, and then we go ahead and apply the vintage effect to it, the distressed effect. It's going to only place that on the image, not on the black background. Okay, so you do have to do the knock me black out first before you can apply that effect. Okay, let's see here. Go ahead and edit, regenerate my preview. Okay, and there you go. So now you've got that distressed look. Okay, so it gives you that kind of that vintage look of, you know, a teacher from, you know, back in the 70s or 60s, what have you, old shirt. And again, if we want to go into my color adjustments here, okay, if I want to try to give it some more pop, I can adjust my chroma. Click OK. Once I click OK, what I have to do is generate the preview image again. Okay, and what it'll do is it'll try to give me some more pop. Not sure if you really can notice it there, but I'm going to go ahead and drop the chroma and see if we see a difference here. What I've done is dropped it. Yeah, and it's a little more faded now, not as punchy. Okay. And there we have it. This is pretty much a lot of the features that we have. Again, we do have more features, and we'll be exploring those with additional webinars to come. So again, the additional webinars that we will feature will be barcode feature, auto job sorter, as well as our visual print positioning feature, which ties everything together and really makes our RIP just that much more powerful and scalable for your business. So as you see your business growing and you need more capability, our RIP is right there with you all the way. Okay. If you have any questions, again, please email me. Again, my email is rickr@cadlink.com. And I just want to thank you all for joining me today on this webinar. Please stay safe and look forward to seeing you on additional webinars in the future.